And welcome back to the OHO podcast, everybody. I'm your host, Buckeye Boggs, flying solo on this adventure today where we're going to talk about you all, Buckeye Nation, and how angry you are following Ohio State's 14-3 Cotton Bowl loss last night. It's a little over 12 hours removed from what I might believe and what some of you believe, obviously, by your comments, one of the worst bowl performances in Ohio State football history. It was not pretty, to say the least. There was some good. The defense played well. Jack Sawyer had a great game, but some of the mistakes made by this coaching staff, some of the decisions made by Ryan Day, um, are being called into question by those in the media as well as those who watch and follow this football team like all of you do in Buckeye Nation. In this video today, we're going to give you a voice. We're going to let you express the pain, the hurt, the anger, the disdain, the shock, the awe of what was a 14-3 loss in the Cotton Bowl. So let's get right into it. We sent the word out last night that I wanted to know your thoughts and feelings, and this is what we got from you all, from Buckeye Nation. We're going to use Facebook for these comments. Twitter, we got some comments, but we can't share quite a few of those, being the platform that Twitter is with some of the vulgarity. But Facebook was pretty clean. So we'll go ahead and use those right now as I share my screen with all of you. David Rissmiller, my thoughts are that Ryan Day is the most pathetic OSU coach in my lifetime. David, I got to ask, man, when were you born? Based off your profile picture, you maybe don't remember the 1990s. I'm sure you were alive during then. This feels very much like the 1990s to me, so I guess you were a John Cooper fan then. Eric House, same thoughts after any big game. If Day isn't let go, this will be the status quo. Boy, Eric, I think that sure feels that way, doesn't it? Last 3 seasons now in big games, Ryan Day hasn't had much success, and this was no different last night as well. Brian Lee Oberst, fan of the show, is Brian. Have been following us for many years. We appreciate Brian. He says, worst bowl game loss since we lost to Clemson in 31-0. Yes, this one was pretty bad. Crazy thing is, in that game, Braxton Miller got hurt and did not return. Same issue now. Quarterback coach is not good. Talking about Corey Dennis at preparing backup quarterbacks. This is true. Coaching changes need to be made, and Day needs to take accountability for this and make changes. Yes, he does. Assuming he is still the head coach next year. Brian, he's definitely going to be the head coach next year. There's no way that Gene Smith is going on his way out, fire Ryan Day, his last hire, and then fire him and then hire a new coach when a new athletic director is starting 6 months from now. So not going to happen. Ryan Day is going to be the coach in 2024, regardless. As far as Corey Dennis not preparing the quarterbacks, well, that is definitely an issue. It needs to be addressed. We'll be doing a video about why Lincoln Keenholz was not ready to play, and how that is a failure on this coaching staff. Ruth says this is a train wreck. Yeah, it was definitely a train wreck, and unlike some train wrecks that you just can't help but not look away because you're watching someone who you disdain, such as the team up north, fall apart. This one is us, Ruth. This is us. We're on this train that is wrecked. So doesn't feel good. Jacob Fraser says self-sabotaged the team. Didn't prepare either quarterback. Ran the ball every single play for a half. Ryan Day is near the top for paid college coaches without any success. The regular season is a means to the end. If you don't make the playoffs, you don't have a good season. Let him go by tomorrow. So Jacob is calling for the firing of Ryan Day. Rick Morris, I can't believe we lost that game to Missouri. You can only ask so much of our defense. Yes, Rick, the defense was great. I'm not in Day's corner anymore. That is interesting. Highlight that. I'm going to come back to that. How many teams won their bowl games with their third quarterback? Oh, USC, K-State, etc. Let him throw the ball. Can't believe it. Awful offensive performance. So Rick says, I can't, he's no longer in Day's corner. I find that a very interesting comment because after losing to Michigan for a third straight season, I put out in a poll who wanted to see Ryan Day fired, and the majority of people did not. They said, how can you fire an 11-win coach? Well, after a second straight loss to a team that you are better than with on a roster, this is how. People like you, Rick, people who were backing him are no longer backing him. I find that interesting. We'll see how many more start calling for the firing of Ryan Day come next season. Tim Strickland says, embarrassing to watch. Yes, it was. Scott Rogers, good friend of the show, been following the podcast for many years. Scott, good to see you. All I can say is that I'm proud of the defense tonight. Way to take a positive spin there, Scott. Defense played tremendous. Sammy posted, another fan of the podcast and follower of this show for many, many years. Sammy says, not nearly as mad as after the CFP loss last year. We clearly need help at quarterback. Devin Brown is too injury prone. Lincoln has potential but is very young. We have to go after a transfer, and it looks like we've been linked to getting Will Howard from K-State. So let me address that real fast there, Sammy. Yeah, there's a lot of rumors floating around that Will Howard is already going to be a Buckeye, that this was in the works for a while. I can't confirm that. Ryan Day at his press conference did not confirm that. In fact, Ryan Day did a 180 on that and basically said that there's been no talks with Will Howard, which I don't believe that either. I think there have been talks. It might not have been Will and Ryan Day both on the phone talking with each other, but there have definitely been conversations between the Howard camp and Ohio State. And I think that those talks are going to heat up after the performance we saw yesterday. Chuck Barnes, get an O-line. Chuck, we have an O-line. You go look at the recruiting rankings of our offensive linemen, and most of them are 4 and 5-star guys. They just haven't been developed. So I would change that to get an O-line coach, maybe. Maybe that's what you should have been saying there. Get an O-line plan better than the one we had where Hinsman didn't play. That's also going to be in a video that we're going to be talking about why Carson Hinsman did not play in this game. Thomas says Ryan Day needs to go. We are not going to do anything but head down from here. So someone else calling for the firing of Ryan Day. Tough game for a freshman, said David. Freshman QB to play, that is. Defense was good, but on the field too long. Yes, they got gassed by the end of that game. Williams says injuries happen. Yeah, yes, they do. Let me say this. This is a reason why when all of you say next man up, I cringe. Injuries happen. And the next man up sometimes is Lincoln Keenholz. And it's not pretty. That's why when you all say next man up, I can't stand it. Sometimes the next man up is not good. So I can't stand that comment. Eric Osbeck, great friend of the show, been following us for many, many years, come to a lot of our live things. Eric, good to see you tonight. He says, screw Ryan Day. Eric is on the side of Chris, my co-host, who've been calling for Ryan Day to be fired now for a while. So this is just more fuel to their fire. Lynn Moore says the O-line really hurt us tonight. Yes, it did. The lack of adjustments to offset the pass rush is on the coaching staff too. Yes, it is, Lynn. What a disappointing end of the season. Hopefully we don't have recruits jumping ship because of this performance. A couple interesting comments there, Lynn. The lack of adjustments to the fact that the offensive line was getting overwhelmed and was just not prepared for this football game is astounding to me by this offensive coaching staff. They were completely unprepared for what happened offensively in this football game. Completely unprepared. And that's on them. Hopefully, we don't have recruits jumping ship. Um, I've heard a lot of people worried that we are going to have some of these players jump in the portal now. Why would I stick around for this? Um, that remains to be seen. Hopefully, that doesn't happen. Hopefully, Ryan Day can make some adjustments to this coaching staff and keep the majority of this roster together and and growing and moving in the right direction. But they got to stop the bleeding right now. That's the main thing. Joel Richardson, John Cooper 2.0 made zero adjustments in the second half, and his new offensive line was Swiss cheese. Yes, they were. Good description of the offensive line change here without Hensman calling them Swiss cheese. They couldn't stop a nosebleed. No, they couldn't. And the reference to John Cooper 2.0 is becoming very, very accurate, Joel. Anthony says Ryan Day played not to lose versus playing to win. I don't want to hear about portal or quarterback. Many teams were affected by the portal. Notre Dame kicked butt without their QB. This kid was third string, elevated to second string with McCord leaving. He should have been ready. O-line was O line all season. They were manhandled. Knowles D couldn't stop run. Here's an idea. Stack the box. Forced them to beat us throwing. This again was on Day. Sure feels like this was on Ryan Day. Absolutely. Front and center. Look in the mirror, big guy. This L is served on a silver platter to Ryan Day. No doubt about it. Quarterbacks being unwillfully prepared. Yes. That was a total miss by this coaching staff to have keyholes ready. Again, we'll be doing a video about that very soon. The O-line was terrible this year. This was the worst performance by this offensive line all season, and that included the opening game against Indiana, which wasn't great. So this is something that we've been talking about, that this was one of the weaknesses of the team, was the offensive line, and it reared its ugly head again. This next comment from Terry is hilarious. OSU crybabies are out in force. And then look at Terry's profile. I believe that's Grumpy. Isn't that Grumpy from Disney? So you use Grumpy as your profile picture and you call everybody crybabies? Come on, man. I can't I can't even take that serious. Then don't blame the coach in capital letters. Don't blame. Are you kidding me? Terry, get out of here, Terry. I can't even take that comment serious. John Jones, the Buckeyes played tough, lost the backup quarterback just 4 passes into the game. He was 8 passes in the game before he was pulled. But he did get injured early, so it might have been 4 passes into the game when he was injured. Held Mizzou scoreless for 3 quarters. The same team that put up 10 on Georgia in the first half. Tough loss. But with what we had, freshmen who had thrown 5 passes all year, proud of our Buckeyes. I'm proud of the defense. I'm not proud of this coaching staff, I'll tell you that much, John. Jane is heartbroken. Yes, indeed, we all are. Coach Dave failed us, says GREG, and it was bad coaching with safe play calling. Hopefully, Coach Day learned a few lessons. Here's what I'm going to say about that. Coach Day has, every time he loses, we say, hopefully he learns from this. At what point are we going to say enough learning? It's time to take the test, pass or fail. Crap or get off the pot type of, sayings here. When are we going to get to there? Are we there? Are we there now? Are we there now as a fan base where it's time to say, this is your test? 2024, this is it. You either win the Big Ten, you beat Michigan, win the Big Ten, and get back to the college football playoff and have a competent offense, or you're done. Are we there now? Mark Newman, I believe John Cooper has come back in the form of Coach Day. Yeah, Cooper 2.0 sure feels like it, doesn't it? Jake Detweiler, changes on the offensive line and special teams units are needed. They were needed a long time ago. Why in the world is Parker Fleming still a part of this coaching staff? He could have been fired months ago, and we would have saw zero effect on special teams. Keeping him around collecting a paycheck is criminal. Sorry. Robert says, bummer. Some Buckeyes injured, sitting out, transferred out. Not the same team that played during the regular season. You had one person sit out, Marvin Harrison Jr. That's it. You had you had an injury. Yes, I understand that. And Devin Brown. Also understand Tommy Eichenberg was injured. I also understand that Garrett Stover, or no, sorry, Cade Stover was injured and didn't play much. Um, but these are excuses. These are all excuses. Tired of excuses. You know, Matt Butcher, our good friend from Australia, been following us for a couple years, had him on the show. Matt's disgusted, along with most of Buckeye Nation. He's dumbfounded with the play calling. Yeah, so are we. The offensive game plan was pathetic. This was a terrible offensive game plan. You had weeks to prepare for this game, and you were so not prepared. Mike says, when you only give up 14 points, you should win. Absolutely, Mike. If I told Buckeye Nation, you're only going to give up 14 points, I guarantee almost all of you would say, we've got this game, we win. Not the case. The defense held up for as long as they could. O-line play was abysmal. Yes, it was. It was terrible. Worst O-line game in a long time. This group needs a major upgrade. Is it in the after effects of non-recruiting stud, or is Fry not the answer either? No QB would have had a chance last night. Day has to look for and find the answers. Yep, I agree. I don't care what quarterback we had in there. He's running for his life. Hasn't Devin Brown left every game he appeared in this year injured? Is he that fragile, or just the most unfortunate player on the team? Definitely unlucky and definitely might be injury prone. Probably a little bit of both, Rick, in all honesty, which is a bad combination. Mary says, onward to next year. I feel crushed for the team. I'd give all these young men a mom hug. Mary's being kind there. Steve says, my thoughts is that OSU is way overrated and can't beat the middle of the road SEC team. Let me push back on that, Steve. That was not a middle of the road SEC team. That was a 10-2 SEC team. That was the third best team in the SEC according to their record. And a middle of the road SEC team would be Kentucky, who was 7-5, who lost to Clemson after being up on them by 2 scores and turning the football over 4 times in the second half. That's a middle of the road SEC team. We gave the third best team, the SEC team, we only let them score 14 points. And our coaching staff was so ill prepared offensively that they let this team down. Our offensive line played so bad that they let this team down, who only gave up 14 points to the third best SEC team in the country. Let that sink in. Kay says Ohio State forgot to show up. The offensive line definitely didn't show up, and if they did, and that's their best effort, we are in trouble, okay? The future is not bright. We might be having 4 freshmen started. We might have 5 new starting offensive linemen next year, if that's the case. The defense definitely showed up yesterday, though, okay? Ed Webb says Day needs to go. So Ed is with some of you who are calling for Ryan Day to be fired. John says, come on 2024. Maybe John's looking for Ryan Day to be fired at the end of 2024. That's why he's excited. I don't know. I mean, if this is what we're going to get in 2024, are we really that excited? Sure hope not. I mean, this is unacceptable, flat out. Rick says, fortunately, I didn't watch the game. Good, I guess good for you. Only followed it on my phone, but Day needs to go. He can't win. So another one calling for Ryan Day. He can't win big games, and play calling was not good. Frank Cooper, my thoughts. We need O-line help desperately. We need help in our conditioning area because the defense tires out in the fourth quarter. Yeah, I've heard several people, Frank, talk about Mickey Mariotti as maybe needing to leave. I don't know that Coach Mick needs to go. He's got a great reputation. I think what happened here is we were gassed in the fourth quarter because we couldn't get fresh bodies in on that defensive line. And if is that a part of conditioning? Yeah, maybe a little bit. I agree. But I've also heard that Ryan Day, he pulls the reins back on Mickey. Mickey wants to push these guys more, and Ryan Day doesn't let him do that. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm not there, but that's some of the rumors I'm hearing. So, you know, push back on that a little bit, I guess. Um, there you have it, guys. There's a lot of anger, there's a lot of frustration in Buckeye Nation today. I get it. I'm right there with each and every single one of you. There's going to be a lot of questions that need to be answered this offseason. It's going to be a very interesting offseason. We're going to be here covering all of it. And like I said, we have a lot of videos about what happened um, in this bowl season that need to be answered and need to be questioned and need to be brought to the surface. We're going to do that. We go live tomorrow night, 8 o'clock Eastern, right here on YouTube at the Ohio Podcast, right here on YouTube. 8 o'clock Eastern. You can be a part of the show, be a part of the live chat. Let your voice be heard. We're going to be talking more about this game. Probably going to be a therapy session again. As a second straight year, we close out with a loss to our rivals and a loss in the bowl game. And it's unacceptable. And some questions need to be answered, and some people need to be held accountable. And we're going to do our best to do exactly that beginning tomorrow night, 8 o'clock Eastern, right here on the Ohio Podcast. Make sure you join if you've never watched us live. We usually have a great time. Tomorrow is going to be very interesting because I think we're going to have a very rowdy group, a very angry group of Buckeyes in the chat. And we're going to have to sort through some things tomorrow as we talk more about the 14-3 loss against Missouri in the Cotton Bowl right here on the Ohio Podcast. So make sure you're alive for that. Check out our channel daily. We do have videos uploaded every single day. We have a lot of videos coming your way, like I mentioned, that we're going to have to break down and talk about some things that need to be discussed, and we want you to be a part of that. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. We're trying to do our push to 1,000 subscribers. We've had a tremendous month of December. We want to finish that off the right way as we head into January and we head into 2024, and we do push for 1,000 subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please do that, as well as give this video a thumbs up. As always, be kind to one another. I, Osamu Zoh, sing Carmen Ohio with all your heart. Till next time, go Bucks.